She was sitting right where I left her, at the table. I walked over and took my seat, pouring a cup of coffee from the pot on the table. She took it from me, walked over to the microwave, and gave it a minute. It was the same pot as before. One of the things that was puzzling me was why I kept ending up with cold coffee. Dee started right in, no delay, no build-up. After the divorce, I spent a lot of time with Marty. She didn't really seem down at all, but I thought she was hiding it. So I went over almost every day. She seemed fine, but she was still seeing Jack, which I thought was strange. I found out that he was married and mentioned it to her, but she said he was going to leave his wife. At least, that's what she told me. Pretty soon, she was seeing him every day, so I stopped going over there. But a week later, she called me and asked me to meet her at the diner where you found me. I went, and that's when I met Philip. He was there with them. Jack introduced me, and we just talked and got to know each other. I just stayed for an hour or so, and then left, but I promised to meet the three of them again. That's how it started. I started to fidget as she got to the part about that son of a B. I didn't want to listen to this, but I felt I had to. I looked over at her and just nodded. I had lunch with him twice more, and then Philip asked me to meet him alone for dinner. I refused at first, but he asked me again later, and I finally accepted. We went out to dinner 3 or 4 times, always alone. I told you I was with Marty on those times. Dee stopped to take a drink of her tea while I waited. I took several deep breaths to try to calm myself, but to no avail. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I feared a heart attack was coming on, but I stayed. When she looked at me, she could see the anger building up, and she hurried on. I need to tell you right now, nothing happened at all at these dinners. Just 2 friends talking and a little dancing. That's all. He was a perfect gentleman at all times. He was. Then, we didn't see each other for a week or so because he was traveling, but when he came back, he called and wanted to meet me for lunch. I accepted and met him at the diner. During lunch, he asked me to spend the night with him. I refused, but he kept asking. I still refused, but I told him maybe later. I didn't say no. I said maybe. She stopped and watched me, while I continued to breathe deeply and count to 10 over and over. I was proud of myself for staying in my seat and not collapsing from a stroke. Okay, maybe it was coming later, but so far, so good. God, Pete, I'm so ashamed of myself. I said maybe I would cheat on you in my marriage. Oh God, so ashamed. But I have to continue. I have to tell you everything. She had to notice the heat in my face as my blood began to boil. She grimaced at my expression, but she continued in spite of it. I had to give her credit for courage. I told Marty what Philip wanted, and she said I should go for it. She said that since you were cheating on me, I should do the same to you. She kept telling me you and Butch were 2 of a kind, and you were both not worth staying faithful for. She finally admitted that she was F Jack almost every day. I was not surprised. I think I knew it. I kept thinking about what Philip wanted, and I was weakening. I began to consider it and wonder what it would be like. I didn't accept yet, but I was beginning to think that I would. I went to dinner with him a couple more times, and the last time was when he pulled me into a corner of the restaurant and kissed me. I had never kissed him on the mouth in all this time, but he kissed me that night. It was a soft, pleasant kiss, and I didn't stop it. Not like he forced it on me. Afterwards, I didn't say anything about it, so he thought it was fine with me. But it wasn't. It made me feel dirty. Now she was the one breathing hard. It was interesting watching her relive this. She was talking more to herself now than to me. It was fascinating to watch. At home that night, I went over it in my mind again and again. And after a while, it didn't seem so bad. It grew in my mind to be rather pleasant, and I believed I liked it. I remember how he pushed himself against me, and I felt his arousal. That's when I began to consider Philip as more than a friend and as a potential lover. She stopped for a second to collect her thoughts, and with a quick glance up at me, went on. During the time I was meeting him for lunch and dinner, I began to see you as a potential block to the things I wanted to consider. Things like going out on dates with Philip, going to dinner and dancing, and other things. You were a drag on me, and it made me angry with you. You didn't do anything, but I did. It was all on my mind. I finally decided that I wouldn't make love with you anymore either. You didn't deserve me, since you were so busy cheating on me with those other women. I had been rather patient with her story up to this point, and I promised myself that since it was over, what she did would not be of too much interest, but that was changing. Her behavior was disgusting. Her attitude was self-serving, and her whole story was one of selfish disdain for me and for our marriage. The anger I felt was beginning to grow, and I knew that if something didn't happen soon, I was in danger of doing something I had never done. Hit a woman. I stood up, and after a few deep breaths, I looked down at this woman I thought I loved. I had no idea how she could have changed so much in such a short time. But maybe she hadn't really changed. Maybe this was the true Delia. AS waiting for a chance to come out and play. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I don't know what the purpose of this is other than to make you feel better by confession. Well, guess what? I'm not a priest. If that's what you're looking for, I'm not him. So if there's nothing else, I need to leave before I lose it and hurt you. She jumped up and went to reach for me, but I stepped back out of her reach. Her face was a mask of pain and panic. Still, no fear of me. For some reason, that gave me pleasure. She could hurt, but not from my hand. I have to finish this. Until I do, you and I have no chance. You have to hear it all. Please, you promised. Let me finish. I stood there, controlling my breathing until I felt my blood pressure fall back to some semblance of normal. After a few strong exhales, I felt myself relaxing a bit, and I finally sat back down. Get it over with then. I need to get out of here and into some fresh air. The stench in here is beginning to make me ill. That had struck home. I saw her wince with pain and shame, and it made me feel good. I had finally caused her to feel some of the hurt I had been living with for the past 3 days. But she sat back down and prepared to continue. Philip continued to call me and asked to see me again, but I continued to say no. I was still considering, and I think I was trying to work up the courage to say yes to him. I talked with Marty several times, and she kept urging me to go ahead, reminding me of your affairs as justification. I was still hesitating, but I was weakening. For some reason, you got suspicious, and I noticed your attitude changing toward me. You may not know it, but after 9 years of marriage, I knew you pretty well. I knew your attitudes, your face when you were thinking and when you were worrying about something. I saw worry and concentration on your face more and more. It started me thinking. She stopped to take a drink of her tea and put it aside. It had grown cold. Now she could drink cold stuff just like my coffee. Trivial little shit not worth the time, but the little flash of pleasure made me smile. She must have misunderstood my smile as one of doubt because she started back from that thought. You may not believe me, but it's true. I guess now that I think about it, the same thing is true of you. That's why you became suspicious of me. You knew me and my habits, and the changes were really major. I was just too stupid to see that about myself. That's what self-absorption does to someone. I was so busy worrying about my own problems and things that I didn't even notice how my behavior had changed. Anyway, I decided that I had to make sure you didn't really know anything, but I didn't know how. I called Philip and told him I had to be very careful for a while, but that I would call him when I could. He wasn't happy, but he agreed. That was Monday of last week. Now we were getting to it. Now I would hear the whole sad story. Now would come the truth. I had lunch with him on Wednesday when you said you had a luncheon meeting at work. I called him at his office, and we met that day at the Friday's restaurant in town. Just lunch, but we talked again about his request, and this time I agreed. I said I would do it. I don't know why, except that I thought that I had better do it before I had to stop seeing him, when you got too suspicious or something. She looked at me to see how I was taking this, but by now, I had stopped anticipating. I fully believed I knew what she had done, and this was just the confirmation. Finally, the truth. I just returned her look with nothing in my expression. It was as cold and dead as I felt inside. She almost cried at my look, but didn't. She swallowed and continued. We made plans to meet for dinner Saturday night. I would tell you that I was going out with Marty to a movie or something which would give us the entire evening. He made a reservation at the Skyview Motel, the one near the diner. Now I was becoming confused. Saturday? She effed this guy Saturday night while I was out drinking with Butch? After I had caught her red-handed with his ass earlier in the day? No wonder she met him. Probably to tell him that it was definitely on, and they didn't have to worry about dumb me. I knew nothing. Well, too bad. I did know, and now it was over. That was before we talked Saturday morning. That conversation with you Saturday was a real shock to me, and it woke me up from what seemed like a long sleep. I think I was just sleepwalking listening to Marty, going out with Philip and Jack and Marty, and those lunches when you were at work. The lies she told me, and the suggestions that you were cheating on me and all of it. All of it was just a lie, and I bought into it. But when you made me see the truth of it Saturday, I knew it was over. I had to stop it. All of it. She was shaking her head back and forth as if to negate all of what she had done. She believed what she was saying, and I found it hard to listen. But she was almost done. I called Philip and told him to meet me at the diner. We drove around while I told him it was over. I had changed my mind, and I didn't want to see him anymore. What we were doing was wrong, and I couldn't do it anymore. He didn't want to stop, but I finally convinced him I was serious. He still wanted to see me, but I told him never again. It was over. He finally accepted it and drove me back to the car. That's when you saw me. So, that was it. After all of that, she hadn't even gone through with it. I was surprised, but I did believe her. Dee was a lot of things, but she was never a very good liar. Even little white lies gave her a problem. But now it was my time to talk. Well, Dee, that is quite a story. So, after all from Marty, all the lies you listened to and accepted, after all the clandestine lunches and dinners when you lied to me, you finally decided to consummate your affair and cheat on me in our marriage. But you couldn't go through with it. Why? What do you mean, why? Because it was wrong. I understood that, and I stopped it. But if it was wrong, why did you agree to it in the first place? Why all the lunches and dinners and the lies to me about what you were doing and who you were with? Why did you make plans to F him? Let him make a motel reservation? And why go so far as to tell me you were going out with Marty? Right up until that morning, you intended to go through with it. What stopped you? Well, you talked to me and told me that it was all lies from Marty. It was all in her head, and she just told me that to convince me to cheat like she had done. That's why. I understood that it was a lie and that what I was doing was wrong. So, you would have gone through with it if I hadn't finally made you see that it was all lies and face up to what you intended to do. Yes. No, I just don't know. But I didn't, and that is the important thing. No, it isn't. The important thing is that you were willing to believe the worst of me, and you were seeing another man without telling me. The important thing is that you were ready and willing to sleep with another man, just because someone told you I was cheating on you. The important thing is that you never once thought of coming to me and talking to me. You were already cheating on us in your mind. All the dates, the intimate lunches and dinners. You were living with me, but you were thinking of him. You stopped making love with me, but planned to do it with him. You had accepted his proposition and were planning on committing adultery. Only my intervention stopped you. This wasn't going as Delia had planned. This wasn't the forgiving husband that she expected. The fact that she didn't actually sleep with the guy was all she saw. The fact that she had agreed to it didn't enter her mind. The lunches and dinners while lying to her husband didn't even concern her. The lies she chose to believe about her husband heard from someone else didn't concern her. Only the fact that she didn't actually do it was important. Only the S act made it cheating in her mind. She didn't even see the betrayal of intimacy and trust as cheating. They weren't important to her. Pete, please. I didn't go through with it. I never cheated on you. I didn't. You have to see that. I didn't do anything. I didn't. Yes, you did. You went out with another man, to lunch and to dinner on many occasions. You lied about it and kept it from me, which shows that you knew it was wrong. You made my life hell at home because you chose to believe someone else rather than trust me. He kissed you and you told me you didn't enjoy it, but you didn't tell him to stop. You made plans to sleep with him and only stopped because I got in the way. That's what you did. No, that's not right. I didn't sleep with him and I didn't enjoy the kiss. I told you I convinced myself that I did, but I didn't. No, you convinced yourself you did because you wanted to find a way to betray me. In your mind, you made it okay. Dee was now a wreck. None of this had gone as she wanted. Everything she said was different when I looked at it. I saw things she didn't want me to see, and she didn't know how to handle it. She looked at me through tear-clouded eyes. What are you going to do? Can't you forgive me and we can start over? Try to fix this? It's not too late. I didn't do anything so we can fix this. We can. It's too late. It was too late when you decided not to trust me. It was over the first time you went to dinner with him while lying to me. That's when it was over. You just didn't know it. Neither did I until you told me. Now I know. It's time for you to face up to it. Our marriage is over. It's dead, and there's nothing left. Delia cried and argued and pleaded, but never during it all did she once say that she loved me and needed me. She only repeated over and over that she didn't follow through with her affair. To her, that was all that was important. I believe she knew it was over and was just trying to convince herself, but it was too late. The love was gone, hers as well as mine. She killed mine as surely as though she had kept that rendezvous at the Skyview Motel. Hers had obviously died some time before. She just didn't know it yet. I moved out that day, finally ending it. There was no marriage left to save. No love left in my heart for Delia. She had betrayed me just as surely as if she had slept with him. Love, respect, and fidelity are the three legs at the base of any marriage. If one is damaged, the marriage is in trouble but could still be saved. When two are removed, the marriage collapses. The third leg is unable to prop it up. In our case, Delia had broken two of the three and had planned on the third. There was no way back for me. I filed for divorce the next day. Delia didn't fight it. Consequences are AB.